imprenditori, istituzioni e campioni dello sport per raccontare a tu per tu il futuro del settore. Tutto questo per scoprire da vicino le carriere di grandi sportivi e per approfondire tematiche quali l'impatto dell'intelligenza artificiale e delle innovazioni tecnologiche nello sport, l'accessibilità che abbatte le barriere fisiche e sociali, la costruzione di modelli manageriali di successo, l'eredità delle grandi manifestazioni sportive che plasmano i territori e il ruolo del turismo sportivo come motore di trasformazione economica. Prima di dare il benvenuto agli ospiti del prossimo evento, a nome dei promotori della manifestazione, vorrei ringraziare chi ha contribuito e collaborato alla realizzazione di Sport Business Forum. Un grazie speciale ai main partner del festival per averci affiancato in questa iniziativa. Grazie anche ai partner, contributor e supporter che hanno sostenuto attivamente questo progetto e ai media partner. Un'ultima nota. Il programma è in continua evoluzione e vi ricordiamo di consultare la versione sempre aggiornata su www.sportbusinessforum.com. Ora lascio la parola a chi presenterà l'evento. Vi seguirò con grande interesse. Buon festival!
Good afternoon and welcome everybody. As you know, this panel is in English. So I'm Giovanni Armanini, Editor-in-Chief of Sport at the Northeast Multimedia Group. Together with me today, I'm happy to welcome Tom Vincent from Rezzil, a VR company specialized in virtual reality. Aldo Comi, Soccerment, a company that recently merged with SICS. These two companies are from a match analysis background, so data, football analysis, indexing, and all these strange things sometimes that people in Italy tend to simplify, saying, okay, do we want to talk football in a very old way? Do we talk in a very new way? So we will talk with them today, and we will have the opportunity to listen from their voice. What does it mean today to be into the match analysis environment, and what's, first of all, the background and the future of this? And of course, with Tom, we will talk about VR, a very new way of approaching football in very, very different ways, for scouting, for instance, for recovering from injuries, and also to analyze matches. So a lot of topics today to start to understand what will be the future of football analysis, football development, and also sometimes future developments that maybe are not just football or not just sports, that starts from this kind of technologies. So let's start with Tom. Can you give us, I introduced a bit, but maybe better than my introduction about Rezzil?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the invitation, first of all. It's great to be a part of the event and speak about Rezzil. And for the native Italian speakers, apologies that this is probably in English because of me. But yeah, it's great to be here anyway. So just to give you a brief introduction on Rezzil, as you mentioned, it's a virtual reality platform, but it is ultimately helping professional football clubs to enhance their cognitive training and data, and also injury recovery by using technology, virtual reality technology to be specific. So what we've created is a platform that is of various football drills that are designed by coaches, that enables players to actually train as they would on the pitch, but they're doing it in virtual reality. And whilst they're doing this, the coaches can work with the player to see what the player is seeing through their eyes, through the headset, and then they can also see all of the data that's being produced whilst they're doing that training, which is a unique perspective that has maybe never been available before. So, for example, there's drills where players are being put under pressure, so they're actually experiencing real-life situations that they would experience on the field. Defenders are coming to them, or they have to, pick out the correct pass to make. And then whilst they're doing that, we can see, is their accuracy improving? Is their heart rate going up? Are they remaining composed under pressure? So it's actually just producing data that's never been available before on the cognitive side, and really elevating training for professional clubs. And then just to touch on the injury rehab side as well, the beauty of virtual reality is you can tailor the environment so that it's very low impact for the players. So if you are coming back from an injury, if you're doing these drills virtually, there's no risk of having that injury recovery as well.
One thing, if I may, that is maybe nice to mention is this. Rezzil has been the first platform, the first tool, let's say, to track proper movement from the players. So with shin pads and shoes, with trackers that allow every player to be tracked when they are actually playing football, but without the ball. So how this works?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's how the technology works, that you're not using a football at all, but the trackers are actually, pretending to be the ball. So that ultimately means that we can, analyze the data accurately as well. But yeah, like you say, without the ball, it's very low impact. So for a player that is coming back from an injury, there's no risk of them getting re-injured because they're, having experiences with the ball and they're not ready to do that yet. Which means that using this platform for injury rehab means you can recover quicker, come back from injury quicker than you would, and actually keep yourself mentally sharp as well. Because if you're out injured for a long time, you might not touch a ball for 12 months, whereas with VR, you could maybe touch, the virtual ball in 3 or 4 months. So it helps to aid the recovery, yeah.
Coming to Aldo, Aldo Comi, Soccerment. Can you tell us something about how your company was born and developed in this year, and what's the concept behind your company, which is not, one of the oldest, but it's one of the newest, I'd say, in an environment, the mesh analysis environment, that it's evolving so much.
Thank you for the question, and first of all, many thanks for inviting me. So yeah, we started in, let's say, 2019, trying to create some new stuff, and we came out with this invention, with this patent of smart shin guards, which are extremely similar to normal shin guards that football players wear. But inside there is a lot of technology, a lot of sensors, and thanks to the sensors and thanks to the AI algorithms, we're able to provide classification of on-ball events, plus the analysis of the athletic performance as well. And then the other way we apply AI is into new metrics, the creation of new metrics to better understand the performance of footballers. From the outset, I thought it was very difficult to understand the football performance through data. Now, it is more difficult than in other team sports, and that is, I think, why in other sports, data analytics came earlier, much earlier than in football. In baseball, American football, basketball, it is much easier to understand performance, also because results and performance are more correlated. The good thing about football is that there is a bit less of a correlation, which makes football magic, but at the same time, it makes it difficult to be understood through data. So
In which sense? This is interesting. In which sense?
Well, let's say the data, the traditional data, has a lot of noise. Our approach is to try to strip away as much noise as possible. And we do that with the creation of new metrics. You might have heard of expected goals, but then there are also expected assists, expected threat, expected offensive value added. That's one of our metrics. All this expected stuff, I think, is useful to strip out the noise from the data, give you a better representation of the performances, And through that better description, you can actually make better decisions.
I can give you an example which I think is very interesting. So I'm following, of course, Aldo and Soccerment since years. Some years ago when they started, there was this very interesting index to me, which was the quality, I call it the quality index. And they started to say, Denzel Dumfries is the most qualitative player because every time he does something is useful, because everywhere they track every touch, they know exactly how much this touch is useful in percentage to score a goal or to advance or to be close to a goal. In that moment, Denzel Dumfries was like three or 4 months into his career at Inter Milan, and he was one of the most criticized players from Inter. And I remember doing a video on my YouTube channel about this, of course, getting insulted on Twitter like it's used nowadays. And then I think the evolution told us that this index was already in the future, understanding that this player had great potential to develop something that probably no one was seeing or perceiving in that moment, but there was. So these kind of indexes can put sometimes us in the future to better understand what will be in 3, 4, 5 months. That for Dumfries, I think the sliding door was the next year. I don't remember if it was World Cup or Euros, and then he started to grow more and more and more. But again, sometimes we have a different perception, but the data can help us to understand something better.
Yeah, well, the secret here is that these advanced metrics have a much lower variance than normal data, normal statistics. And with that lesser variance, you have, again, you better see the trends, and you better see the normal output. Then, take, for example, expected goals, because it's conceptually easier. If you have a striker that normally has 0.6 expected goals per game, you might have some periods where the striker, for some reason, is not able to score at all, but still produces 0.6 expected goals per match. And then suddenly he starts scoring again, and he realigns to the average of those 0.6 expected goals. It doesn't mean then when he's not able to score, he's not a good player. And at the same time, when he scores 2 goals every game, he's not maybe Messi. So you need to be consistent in the evaluation, and these metrics allow for a better consistency and, as I said, a better representation of the underlying performance.
Michele Crestani, SICS. So your company is the older one here, and you are basically one of the pioneers in Italy of the match analysis. You come from a different background, which is software development. You arrived to football, and then, so you have a 25, 30, almost 30 years history to tell us how a company like yours has evolved in this long journey.
Yeah, well, as you say, Giovanni, we have a long history. We started our activity in 1992, and we lived directly all the history of the match analysis. We were very focused on the technical side. We talked to the coaches, we talked with the athletic trainer, we talked to all the people in the technical staff. And we really lived everything from a technical side. I mean, we didn't talk with the sport director or with directly with the club. We talk in technical way, and then we discussing about match analysis mainly. We started in 2014 for the first match analysis courses, and before the organization from the Italian Federation. Until now, we have already certified more than 1,500 match analysts that are mainly working for the, I would say, most of the professional club in Italy. And from my point of view, the fact of having lived all the development of the match analysis, for us it's a big, way to have directly understood how things can be developed. We started analyzing matches using the videotapes. After that, we went to the CD. Now, obviously, we work only on digital format. But I would say that we lived and were able to continue to make the company profitable, understanding which was what the market asked us, and we were able to give to the market the request. When we understood 3 years ago that match analysis was important, but we continuing with that match analysis, we continued living and operating in our country, in Italy. We understood that if we wanted to grow, we needed to go outside Italy. And then we developed a completely new approach to the market, developing a scouting platform. And now we are working with, I would say, many countries. We have an international network of sales agents. Just to give you an idea, we upload every month something like 7,000 matches in our cloud, and all the matches are analyzed. We have a production center that analyzes all the games, and and then we have been able to, understand which were the requests and try to satisfy the request. Going to artificial intelligence and to what we made with Soccerment, with Aldo, we understood that if we wanted to develop applying new kind of software development techniques, not only data analysis techniques, needed to go more in depth in the knowledge and understanding of this feature like artificial intelligence. And this is why we are very happy to have merged SICS with Soccerment.
There's a very quick thing I cannot not ask you today. So, early 90s, in Italy already some companies were developing something like this, but the adoption of these tools, let's call it tools, into the Italian clubs has been very, in my opinion, slow. And still, 10 years ago, also the storytelling of newspapers was, oh, look at these amazing new things, was 20 years older application. How is it possible that we started so early and we arrived so late? Is it a fact of mentality, of, I don't know, of culture, or what's the explanation of that?
I think that in general life is strange because I was discussing with Aldo before. I said that in my life I made so many sports, never at high level, but I think I tried everything: volleyball, ski, athletic, and so on. You were always bad, so. Yeah, I never played football, and now I'm 30 years that I'm living on football. And then again, often the life make you select a direction or make some choices, I would say, almost casually. In the beginning, our activity was not on football. We started developing software for athletics. After that, for volleyball, we developed it in 1994, and then 30 years ago, a software that was used by Milan Volley and Sisley Volley to collect data during the game and to give the statistics to the coach. The market was not, there were not enough resources to fund the life of a company, and we understood it. Continuing developing only volleyball was not a profitable way to work for us. We tried with athletics. Also, athletics is a beautiful sport, but honestly, from a resources point of view, from a funding point of view, it's a sport where it's difficult to work. And almost casually, we arrived to football. We arrived to football talking to scouting a guy, an old guy, the name is, I remember his name, Gianfranco Bozzao, for sure no one of you know him. He was the guy that discovered Asprilla and was the guy that he didn't speak one English word, but it was able to go around the world and to discover the talents. And he was our starting in the football. He was the guy that helped us to start working with Parma Calcio. In the beginning, it was an exclusive contract. We worked for 2 years only for them. When I speak of Parma Calcio, I talk about Parma Calcio of Pastorello, of the Tanzi family, and so on, and then the old, very old Parma. But this is the way in which we started working for football. And since 1994, now we are focused 100% on football.
Let's go back to Tom. There is one thing that always, not always, but at the beginning when I started to study your platform, your approach to football analysis that always surprises me. So when we go scouting players, we see what we have in front of us. When we use artificial intelligence, virtual reality, we can have a more dynamic idea. And we can have an idea not just about technical skills, which is something that more or less everybody can see, but also how much a player is open to learn new things, how fast he is learning, and how he is developing. I always do this example. Sometimes we see players 18 years old and we cannot explain ourselves why they never developed as quick after 18 than what they did before. I hope this is more or less clear for everybody, because I would like you to explain better and how VR can help us into scouting players in this dynamic way.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, and I think what is unique about our platform is that we're tapping into the mental side of the player. So as you mentioned, we can all see the technical ability of a player. We know who's the quickest, who's the strongest, who's the fastest, who scores the most goals. What we can't see is their mindset. So what we have done is created the Rezzil Index platform, which basically when a player is doing these drills, all of the data is telling us their cognitive abilities, so we can actually see how good they are at making the right decision, how fast are they at making the right decision. And I think there's a lot of players that maybe haven't been the best technically, but they've had excellent football brains and maybe have been left behind slightly. So I think that's what we're trying to identify, is the whole package. So the technical side is already done. The coaches on the field know the technical stuff. How do we tap into the mind, basically? So, yeah, our platform is giving players their scores for their decision-making, accuracy under pressure, composure, which is something that's quite unique and hasn't been done before. So that's how we feel the next generation will develop, by ultimately using the mindset that they have to help them develop in another way. So that's what our platform is helping clubs to see that in players, yeah.
A great example for this, I think, is Paul Scholes. I think you all know Paul Scholes, the player from Man United, an amazing midfielder. I remember him coming to your office, and he was after his career, but doing all the drills in a perfect way, because the athletics were not there anymore. He was old, but the mindset was always there, was definitely. Do you have some other example of players that you've seen like this?
Amazingly, clubs are very sensitive with their data. So there's lots of clubs in the Premier League that don't want to share any data, which is frustrating, because we'd love to be able to tell everyone, you know, what players are developing and what players are doing that. But they're very secretive with that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that is something that you never lose, like the mind of the player. If you're 18, if you're 25, if you're 55, if you've got that good football intelligence, then you will always have that, and that is what our platform is identifying. The football brain, basically, which is never something that's really had data for it before. I think all of the data that's being produced is very much about on the field and, you know, how many kilometers are you running or expected goals or passing or shooting, but no one's ever really had data for, you know, how good are you at making the right decision on the field.
Aldo, and then one day you met Michele and you decided to merge your companies. And we were talking before, saying, I told you it's already something incredible, because in Italy we have this mindset of small companies, but you are trying to do something bigger. What's the vision, and how did you get to the idea, and where do you see the development in 10 years? Because everybody is talking artificial intelligence. In practical terms, what do you see in the next years coming into football, hoping that the clubs will be faster than to understand what's happening right now than what they did in 90s maybe?
Thank you. No, well, in the past 5 years, I think since COVID, football clubs have been faster and faster in adopting football analytics and anything that could be strange, perceived as strange before the pandemic. Now, going on to the merger with SICS, I think there are 3 good reasons for Soccerment to have decided to merge with SICS. The first one is Michele. I mean, to me as an entrepreneur, I think Michele could be an enormous source of inspiration. I mean, what he has achieved in the past 30 years is there to prove it, and I can learn a lot from Michele, also because of the knowledge that he has on the market, right? Secondly, I've learned that football clubs, because of what we have said so far, football clubs cannot really handle too many platforms, too many solutions. They are bombarded, and some concentration in the market is not only something that could be forecasted, but needs to happen. Because the football market is particular, and you know, if you go there as a company having you know, just one reference, but you can offer different things to various departments, I think that is the best way to do the business for yourself and also for the clients, for the clubs. So it creates value. And going on to creating value, I think that you know, we talked. I think it was 18 months ago when we started talking about it. And by analyzing the 2 companies, we saw that there was like a perfect complementarity. So it was too good to be left there, basically.
In which field particularly? So,
well, we both look at 2 things, 2 aspects. One is match analysis and the other one is scouting. But we do it in a different way. We did it in a different way. Now we are on the same page. But we did it in a different way because, you know, on, for example, the data collection, they have a production center while we have a wearable. So in both cases, you collect data, but through different approaches. When it comes to analytics, more or less the same. No, we might have had a higher focus on the advanced metrics that I mentioned earlier, while SICS has been the first developer of tactical metrics that we didn't have, like the indice di pericolosità, no? I don't know how to say it in English, but indice di pericolosità. And then also when it comes to the approach as an output, SICS has video software tools, while we had a better focus, a higher focus on analytics platform and also using AI. For example, we have this AI algorithm that through a prompt can find the best player solutions for a club, and and this AI Scout could be integrated very well with the videos-based platform of SICS, giving you not just the data as we used to do, but also giving you the videos related to the actions of the players.
I want to keep you here one more second because there is one particular project from your company that I think is very interesting, which is profiling players in a new, completely different way, which is based on what they actually do and what's the position from them, for instance, but what they actually do on the field. So we don't have I don't know, side left back or right back or central defender or so on, but you completely change it, the way of watching players and of putting them into categories. Can you tell us something about this? Also, you also did a very interesting book about this on how to profile, because I think this is going to completely change the way we see a player. A defender is not just a defender, or sometimes a defender is not more a game builder more than a midfielder just because he's behind this midfielder. And so I've seen this, and I'd like to share with them this different approach because it's completely mind-changing, I think.
Sure. Well, the intuition comes from a renowned tactician, who's Antonio Gagliardi, who's the now assistant coach of Mr. Chivu, or Kivu, I don't know the pronunciation. Anyway, back then he was the match analyst of the Italian national team. He has been assistant coach at Juventus, then at the Saudi. So he's like considered the best, one of the best tactical analysts.
And let's say he comes from SICS. So.
And he comes from SICS.
Let's say that Antonio Gagliardi comes from SICS. So.
Yeah, he used to work with for SICS. So we sit down with him, and he had this idea. We were developing the same idea at that moment. But we had, the data scientist able to put that idea into practice by using data and by using our database. So what is the idea? The idea is that, for example, a right back could be a very completely different from another right back. They're both right backs, but very different in the function they have on the pitch. So we started working on this clustering model that by taking data, provide the actual function of any player on the pitch. And this algorithm, this model, has come out with 13 different clusters. And by doing scouting through this system, we believe it is way more effective because according to the playing style that you have as a club, as a team, you need some clusters more than others. And so, it is better that you don't focus on finding a right back generically, but that you look for a right back with some specific function that is ideal for your playing style. For example, back then when we were working on this, there was the example of two right backs being very different one from the other. Azpilicueta, back then he was playing at Chelsea, and Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool. So both right backs, but super different one from the other, because they have a different function on the pitch.
A defender and a playmaker, basically.
Exactly. So the clustering model was able to identify these differences, not only for right backs. I'm talking about right backs, but that is valid for any other position and role on the pitch. And I think when it comes to scouting, an AI that gives you an output based on a prompt gives you a much better output if takes the clustering model into consideration rather than not.
Michele, same question about the connection between the two companies. And on top of this, I'd like also to know something about how is at the moment the way you work with the clubs? Because you've seen, especially in Italy, let's stay focused on Italy because it's, I think, the most interesting part. What does it mean nowadays to work, and what's the difference, and what you see as well in the future?
Well, first thing, I would say that the merging with between Soccerment and SICS was mainly, I would say, a matter of trust. We meet each other organizing the first data analysis courses and data scientist courses a couple of years ago. And we started talking, obviously, and we felt that our ideas on the development, on how things should be organized were very, very similar. But there was not much overlapping. It was mainly a complementary view. Also at the product level, our products were completely different. I don't want to say completely different, were not overlapping with the product developed by Soccerment. Soccerment developed Exceed, that is an hardware product in which artificial intelligence is very important. We developed a more traditional product, not hardware, only software, only services, only knowledge of the football matter. And yeah, the two companies were naturally integrated. And then first thing, the trust between the two founders of a company is, I would say, the first and most important thing. Second thing, the fact that the products were absolutely not competing one with the other, and were instead complementary. First. And yeah, I would say that what has born is quite new because it's 2 months that the merging happened, and then we are still working on the integration. We are still working on merging the organization, the development guys, the technical guys. Not simple, and this is the reason for which we asked the help of Franco Puppo, that is also is one of the, I don't say founder, but say main developer, the CTO of a company that made something. The company is Wayscout. Wayscout is our direct competitor at the moment. It's a very big company. It has been bought by an American company that is named Huddle. And it's, how to say, for us it's something like what we want to do and what we want to be the alternative. We want to become as big as them, but to maintain a more, how to say, direct contact with the customer. We want to be flexible. We want to have the approach of an Italian company, not the American company. American approach is great, but it's very rigid. It's not dynamic. It's difficult to talk with the American company. We want that our company is near to our customer, to our club. We want to talk with them. We want to understand their needs, and we want to grow based on the request and question that they made us. This is our approach.
So big customization, basically. So time is running. If you want to make some question, if you want to do it in English, if you prefer to do it in Italian, it's also okay. And that's the time, that's the moment. Any question?
Thank you for sharing your experiences, first of all. I study management engineering, and I'm particularly interested in the data side of things. So I would like to ask you what are the most important variables that you take into consideration in all your forecasting, and why are they so important?
Because it's difficult. All right. It's a very good but difficult question as well. I think, well, I think the right answer is it depends, and it depends on the end results that you want to achieve, and on the, in this case, football situation the data refer to. Now, how you decide which variable to use, it has to do with being able to analyze the complexity. I mean, football data is complex. You need to analyze it thoroughly. You need to analyze it a lot, and you need to ask yourself various levels of why. No? Why that data is like that? All right. Why then this and why then that? And to do that, I think you need to have a particular mindset. By having this in mind, as I basically, in my previous career as a financial analyst, I had the same problem now when analyzing not players, but balance sheets and financial statements. With this in mind, I decided that it was, what was needed for Soccerment at that time was the mindset of researchers. And that's why we hired 2 PhDs in physics. So one in astrophysics and the other one in quantum physics, because with that theoretical mindset, they were used to ask themselves a lot of questions on what they saw. So not to remain superficial, but to go more and more in depth into the analysis. And if you do that, then you are able to see what the right variables are and to construct the models on top of them.
Thank you.
Because if I can add one thing, the very interesting thing about AI and scouting with AI is that you get different answers based on the questions that you do. So if you are the Zerbi match analyst or Farioli or Allegri, different way of seeing football, you get different solution and different perspective, and that's the very interesting thing, how you set up the question and how do you really see some particular data. Any other questions?
Okay. I have one for Tom, of course. I'm not going to ask anything to Michele or Aldo, which will be coming back to Milan later on, so I have plenty of time to ask things. So, Franco Pupo here. I was the CTO of Y Scout, as Michele said. I'm CTO now of SICS and Soccerment. You mentioned football brain, okay? Two quick things. Like one is, how many, like if you have to define or if you have to mention the most important, do you vectorize these actual brain football KPIs? Do you have like names for these variables, or like strength or speed or whatever? How do you call them? And how do you give a feedback to a player if you can't share the average, let's say? So if you can't, like if Manchester United comes to you, of course, make some tests, you give results to them, but then you cannot share the results. I've been there many times where they say, okay, what is good? So I made 7. Is this good? What does this guy do? Because they always talk, what does Mohamed Salah do? Mohamed Salah is 8, I did 7.5. Oh, yeah, I'm good. Mohamed Salah does 25, I'm doing 7. Maybe I'm not that good. Okay, so how do you compare those metrics that you cannot share? And this is always, sometimes it's true also with wearables, because with wearables, clubs do not like to share the results most of the time. And if you have some mentionable or honorable metrics that you want to share, how do you call? Is perceptiveness, or is that guts, or what are the metrics of the football brain?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the first part of the question is the platform we've designed, the metrics for the football brain is adaptability. So how does a player adapt to a situation that happens? Composure. How composed are they when the pressure is happening? Decision making and accuracy. So that's how we're measuring the football brain. So that is the 4 fundamental things that are being detected when you're doing these drills. And then your other part of the question is, yes, we can't share individually. We can't say to Liverpool, this is what Manchester City are doing. But the score that we give for a player is out of 100 in all of those areas. So we have like a level that we say if a player has 75, that is elite. So we're not giving individual data of what every club is doing. We're giving an overall, we can give an overall test, so when a player gets a score back, we know that that player, that is Premier League level or that is Championship level, for example. So we're using all of our data to create something that we can share if the clubs are not individually sharing. So we've tried to make everything as easy as possible so that, you know, data is confusing if you don't know what to do with it. So if we make it simple, it makes it more attractive for clubs and players to use, because a lot of players that are, you know, over 30 have never seen VR before, but players that are under 18, you know, everybody is using VR. So how do you make older players and older coaches that have used the old school ways, how do you get them to embrace it? And that's to make it easy and simple. So hopefully that's what we've done, and hopefully that answers the question.
Any other questions? If not, I have one for you, Tom. So you're based in Dubai currently, right? And this is a bit of a different question than technology one, but you had to expect it. What's the difference that you've seen in the approach of a football club to technology in Dubai and in different countries? Rezzil is in many, many countries at the moment. So what's the differences that you see, and particularly there, how do these emerging countries, they see these tools and these new things?
Yeah, so Rezzil is global. Obviously, England is very established. All of the Premier League clubs are using it. So Premier League clubs have the mindset of being, you know, trying to be the best. So therefore, if the top clubs are using this technology, smaller clubs say we must use this technology as well. Obviously, I'm based in the Middle East, which is challenging in terms of the mindset. A lot of clubs in the Middle East are very old school, very traditional. You said Italian clubs are very much like that as well. They have worked the same way for 50 years. There is no problems. This is how we've always worked, and we've won trophies. So I think the challenge in the Middle East is about changing that mindset and helping people to understand, because maybe they've not had the same experiences of maybe what clubs in England and Europe have had. I see it slightly differently in Saudi Arabia, because they want to be the best and they want to spend as much money as possible to be the best, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it does take time to show people the value of the new technology. So I think the challenge is the mindset, but for any company, not just Rezzil, I'm sure it's the same with these guys as well, you have to show value, you have to show that this is successful, and then you can build on that. So the only difference for me all over the world is that every country has a different mentality, a different mindset, a different understanding, and you have to respect the way that every different country works. You know, I can't go into Italy, for example, and start doing it the same way in England, because that's disrespectful. Clubs won't appreciate that style. So you have to learn how they work, and then how can you work with them to make it a success, rather than just try to copy and paste into every country in the world. So in the Middle East, I can just meet with a chairman or an owner of a football club, have a dinner, and he says, yeah, okay, I will try this because we need to try this. But maybe in America, it's all about data. How much is it going to cost? What is the return? How do we implement this? Every market is different. So part of my role is to understand how every country works and try to do it.
Which basically means it's never a question of pure money and cost, but it's 90% about culture and the way they see it.
It's about building trust, and like with any tech platform, you need to show that it works. Yeah.
Any connection that you see or that you can talk about AI and VR in the development of things?
Yeah, so they're very different. VR, what we've built is factual, so it's telling you what has happened, whereas AI is a bit more predictive. It can tell you what would happen. But I think they can be combined with, in our platform, for example, if we're generating data for what is happening and what has happened, AI could potentially come into the drills to create a scenario of what will happen. So how does a player adapt to that situation? If a player is constantly struggling with pressure on the left-hand side, AI could then detect that we need to do more for the left-hand side of the player. So that's how I think they could work to bring prediction into existing drills, but they are very different.
Thank you so much. If there's not any other questions, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, Aldo and Michele. Hope you enjoyed the panel, and see you in the next the next panels and in the next opportunities that we will have. Thank you so much.